Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Our group will be presenting our analysis on Mulan's movie based on multicultural literature, multiliteracies, and linguistics. This is our task. Next, I will be presenting the TSLB 3203, which is multicultural literature, where I will be analyzing the multicultural element based on the movie. Mulan 2020 was directed by Nikki Caro, and the writers are Rick Jeffy and Amanda Silver. This film was released on 10 September 2020. Okay, so this movie was about a young woman who disguises herself as a man to take her father's place to fight against the northern invaders. At the end of this movie, she becomes one of China's greatest heroines that save Emperor's kingdom. One of the multicultural elements in this movie is gender issue. This movie highlights gender roles and stereotypes during that era. The first one is the physical differences between men and women. Men were seen as yang and women were seen as yin. Women as yin were considered as a negative element, reinforcing their inferior status and were sometimes forbidden from leaving their room to demonstrate their loyalty.
This way. That's the last one. Mulan, forget the chickens. No!
Tell me your sister is not the cause of this.
This movie starts by introducing Hua Mulan as a girl who born with Qi, a kind of life energy that allows you to do martial arts moves. It is no surprise when when running after a chicken, she can climb the rooftops, fall, and land safely on the ground. Her father was very proud of her, but the rest of the village, and including her mother, was not so pleased to see her acting like a boy. So this scene was very telling us about the societal norms during that era, where girls have to behave like dainty and female ladies who need to know their place in a male-dominated society. Next, family pressure and marriage. Mulan's mother tells her husband that a girl's job is to bring honor to the family through marriage. In Chinese culture, respecting our parents is the most important quality, and not getting married is like the biggest sign of disrespect.
We have excellent news. The matchmaker has found you an auspicious match.
It is decided. Come and sit down. It is what is best for our family.
Yes, I will bring honor to us all.
Failure to marry is socially unacceptable for Chinese women. Women are often still expected to marry at a relatively young age, and if they fail to do so, they are known as shengnu. Shengnu or leftover woman refers to women over 25 who are not married yet. People think that in Chinese society, an unmarried woman is incomplete. Next, leadership roles. For most human history, majority of people serving in combat were men. Women in ancient and imperial China were restricted from participating in various realms of social life. They must remain inside, whilst outside business were conducted by men.
You need to find the Emperor. We'll hold them back.
Till next we meet, Homeboy. Impossible. A woman leading a man's army. It is my duty to fight for the kingdom.
The girl who has come to save the dynasty.
You will die pretending to be something you're not. Yet here I stand. I'm Mulan. I will bring honor to us all.
Disney's Mulan, rated PG-13.
Mulan challenged these gender stereotypes and led men in battle to save the emperor. She managed her great action did save China, and she has brought honor to her family, village, and emperor. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I am Aisha Farhana, and today I will be presenting on the multiple perspective of a current issue highlighted in an advertisement of film. As Adilah mentioned before, the film that we choose is the Disney's Mulan. But before that, let us know a little bit of information of this Disney's Mulan. Disney has basically released an animation of Mulan in the year of 1998. And now, in the year of 2020, Disney has remade Mulan, but now in a live-action movie. So, basically, Mulan is based off a popular Chinese legend in which a woman by the name of Hua Mulan dresses as a man that takes her father's place in the army, which in that era is called the Klimazak Army. Now, let us move on to the issue of Disney's Mulan. So, the current issue that we notice in Disney's Mulan is the issue of feminism. Before we continue, let us all know the meaning or the definition of feminism. Feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of the equality of sexes. So, now, there are several perspectives of feminism issue in Mulan that is voiced out by multiple groups of people. These are the multiple perspectives on how different groups view feminism in Mulan. Let us look on the first perspective, which is the perspective of audience. An audience of Mulan mentioned that feminism in Mulan is in the Mulan story is varied based on each cultural lens, changes with the time, and the backdrop of history. This is because a researcher by the name of Feng Lan has written, the old Chinese feminist is implicit within Chinese philosophical ideas of gender roles, whereas women, not only females, can speak out publicly under patriarchal society. Rather than the communist society, the Chinese view of feminism involves much activity in either family or social work under Mao Zedong's communist revolution. So in Disney's Mulan, we can strongly see feminism, in which the character Mulan implies when she joins the army. The other perspective is that the American critics Disney's Mulan as an anti-feminism film, as it contains gender stereotype and sexism. While this showed in the movie where the Chinese household should be organized only by women, and women are not allowed to join anything, especially the army, because the Chinese view women as to only be the servant of a husband. So, moreover, in Disney's Mulan, we can see that she is also been asked to marry a totally foreign man, a foreign person, just to make her husband without her own consent. Next, audiences, basically girls, of all classes, are able to see that they are equal to men and can reach whatever they want if they are determined to do it, or if they have the hard work. So this is also shown in the movie where Mulan, which is dared by the captain to climb a long rope, despite of being the only girl which no one knows in the army, she is determined, and she put hard work in herself, and at the end of the story, and at the end, she is the first one to climb the rope, which was dared by the captain herself. This evidence shows how a woman can do a work of a man. The next perspective we are looking at is the perspective of an activist. An activist has voiced that Mulan reinforces a masculine construction of gender. In the scene, the captain sings the songs which entitled "I'll Make a Man Out of You." This portrays the stereotypical presentation of man, that only man is worthy of war and is worthy of doing something, of fighting. So this scene actually discriminates women, as it mentions women is not acceptable in war. Okay, next, the activists also mentioned that the film emphasizes stereotypical feminine qualities. Mulan reinforces the idea that being a woman is to act dumb and be prepared to marry a guy. The scene where Mulan is to be prepared to marry a guy, the scene where Mulan is preparing to see the matchmaker to turn her into a bride, highlights the idea that women can only bring honor to the family if she found a husband, or which when they become a bride, which actually is by meaning that being a servant and only to serve their husband. Okay, next is the film analysis using queer theory's idea of gender performativity. The film highlights Butler's idea that gender is not an inherent set of traits, but rather is performed. However, we can see clearly in Mulan that she has a problem in gender performance, as actually she failed to perform on how to gracefully pour a tea, or how to clean, or how to dresses herself. Lastly, Mulan displays how hard it is to escape the stereotypical gender roles. Evidence shows in the scene where Mulan is offered a powerful job in where Mulan is offered a job which only a man can do by the emperor in the kingdom after Mulan saves the emperor. But sadly, Mulan rejected the offer. She let down the offer. Why? Because Mulan returns home to be an obedient daughter. This shows that after all that is being done, after all the war, after all war that she fought, she, female, especially female, must return to the household. This actually shows also how sexist men are at that era and how it is difficult to escape the stereotypical of female only belongs in the household. Okay, now on the perspective of students, Mulan showed that women can do something for the society instead of waiting to be a bride. What she did was she joins the army on the behalf of her sick father since no one could take her father's side. Later, she became a hero in the movie as she saves the emperor in the end of the story. Next, Mulan is an independent woman and did not rely on others, especially men. Feminism clearly can be seen here when she was in the training camp. She tried to prove herself that she could survive through the training camp by her own effort. She succeeded to show that until the end, she surpasses the other men in the camp. She doesn't need anyone to help her whenever there are any obstacles around, whenever there are obstacles in front of her. She always found a way to overcome the obstacles. Mulan looked for her own identity by her own way, and it shows that women can also live independently. Okay, next, Mulan was not afraid of doing something that was against the ideal norm of the patriarchal society. The evidence shows in the scene where she stole her father's army set armor and dressed as a man to replace her father in the war. Next, Mulan is also breaking the common social construction in her society. She was against the idea of an ideal woman is supposed to be, she was against the idea of ideal women in that society, in which I had mentioned before, women are for home and most of them did not get enough education. Furthermore, speaks her mind, which in a lyric in the movie was also a taboo thing to do in that old Chinese society. A woman had to be quiet and just follow what men were saying. That is what the society has been taught throughout the era. So, all in all, Mulan shows feminism only to the strong masculinity construction in the society. As you can see, it seems that men and women already have an equal position and role, by what I say is in Mulan. So that is all from me. Now next is Auni. Thank you.
Much Aisha. So hello everyone, so my name is Auni Afifa and I'll be presenting the TSLB 3013, which is linguistic, where I will be analyzing the morphology and syntax based on the movie that we choose, which is Mulan. So first and foremost, we need to know what is morphology is. So in linguistic, morphology is the study of words, how they are formed and their relationship to other words in a language. It also analyzes the structure of words and part of words. So there are two things we need to know beforehand, which is the morpheme and morph. So morpheme is defined as the smallest linguistic pieces with a grammatical function. For example, the word television. Television is a word that has two morphemes, the word tele and also vision. And then morph refers specifically to the phonological realization of a morpheme. For example, the most basic example is the plural s, like car to cars, girl to girls, bus to buses, and so on. Next, we go to syllable versus morpheme. One thing we need to know about syllable versus morpheme is morphemes cannot be equated with syllable, right? So for example, the word happiness. So what differentiates these two things? Syllable is a part of word that it doesn't matter if it has meaning or not. For example, the word happiness, it has 3 syllables, which is happiness. Meanwhile, morpheme, it must have meaning. For example, happy and ness, so it has 2 morphemes. Another thing we learn in morphology is the addition of affixes. Right, there are 2 types of affixes. The first one is prefix, the second one is suffix. Prefix is placed at the beginning of the word, meanwhile suffix is added at the end of a word. So let's take a look of this example, the word impassable. The word im here is the prefix, meanwhile able is the suffix, so it became impassable. So let's go through with the type of morphemes. So there are 2 types of morpheme, which is free morpheme and bound morpheme. The first one is free morpheme. Free morpheme is the words that can stand alone with specific meaning, right? And it could be any words. So under free morpheme, we have lexical morpheme and functional morpheme. So what is lexical morpheme? Lexical morpheme is the words that have meaning and carry the content of any messages. Lexical morpheme is also known as open class. So under open class we have adjective, noun, verbs, adverbs, pronoun, and determiner. And then functional morpheme is the words with grammatical function in a sentence. For example, prepositions, articles, pronouns, which is also known as closed class. Next is the bound morpheme. Bound morpheme is the opposite with free morpheme. Bound morpheme cannot stand alone with meaning. So under bound morpheme we have derivational morpheme and also inflectional morpheme. So derivational is made up of suffix and prefix, and it also changed the meaning but maintained the synthetic structure. So let's take a look at the example. The word alcoholic. The root word is alcohol, where we know it is a type of liquid, right? But when suffix was added, which is the IC, it changes the meaning into a new one, which is alcoholic. Alcoholic means someone who drinks alcohol. Yeah. So that is how the derivational morpheme works. Next is the inflectional. So inflectional is the additional of suffix to indicate the grammatical function. For example, the plural s, from book to books, and that is the inflectional morpheme. So let's take a look at the example from the movie.
There have been many tales of the great warrior Mulan. But ancestors, this one is mine. Here she is, a young shoot, all green, unaware of the blade. If you had such a daughter, her chi, the boundless energy of life itself, speaking through her every motion, could you tell her that only a son could wield chi? That a daughter would risk shame, dishonor, exile? Ancestors, I could not.
Right, as you can see in the slide, I already classified the morphemes according to the colors. Red is for inflectional, yellow is for functional, green is for lexical, and blue for derivational. So for inflectional, you can see the use of plural s in the word of tales and ancestors. And then functional, we have the pronouns, which is she, her, you, and so on. And then we have lexical, which is young, should, green, daughter, son, tell, speak. And then we have derivational, which is in the word unaware, the use of prefix, and then boundless, the use of suffix, and also dishonor. Now we move on to analyze syntax in a movie. So in linguistics, syntax is the set of rules, principle, and process that govern the structure of sentences in a language, or so we call sentence structure. There are 4 types of sentence structure. The first one is simple sentence. In simple sentence, there are subject and verb. So one of the example of simple sentence in a movie is, I will protect you. So that is one of the simple sentence. And then the second one is compound sentence. Compound sentence has subject, verb, object, conjunction, subject, and verb. So for example, in the movie, the Rurans are ruthless and unpredictable. So there are the use of conjunction and there. The third one is complex. The third one is complex sentence. So complex sentence has dependent clause, subject, verb, and object. So in the movie, the complex sentence that I found is, when the time comes, do not turn your back on them. So that is the complex sentence. Last but not least is the compound complex sentence. So the compound complex sentence has 4 clauses, dependent and independent clause. So in the movie, the compound complex sentence that I found is, perhaps one day you could accompany me to the village where I will introduce you with my daughter and our village matchmaker, of course. And that is all for the compound complex sentence. So that is all from us. Thank you.